Hello, Deanna. Thank you for submitting your work. I've got your banner ad up right here. Got it fit nicely in the window, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. But before we do that, I want to address your writing a little bit. Thank you for including this wonderful um, uh, written description of your experience with the assembly of the banner ad. I appreciate that. It really tells me a lot about what you're learning and your approach. So I appreciate this. So for example, I've got a couple of comments here. Rule of thirds. That's good. That's smart. That's smart. You're applying elements and principles that you've learned to work that you're executing. That's fantastic. Be sure to mention that in your written final project part two, the written final asks, there's a section in there that asks you about the elements and principles that you have employed. So be sure that you include it. People always forget that in a written requirement. So be sure that you include that portion on the elements and principles of design. Okay, first I'm clicking on mass image on one side, text to the other. Okay, that didn't work. So layout configurations, that's good. I'm going to recognize text, I still going to make the same message. Of course, that's expected. I'll talk about that in a second. So to adapt the logo. Okay, this is an issue right here. Okay, I understand the reasoning why you wanted to adjust the logo, but to keep this in mind, as a designer, when you receive work that is in a client style guide, that work it's dogmatic that we stick to that work. So in other words, you would never ever make changes to a logo that was supplied in a style guide from your client. I mean, not even adding a drop shadow, nothing. I had actually had to um, uh, issue a cease and desist a couple of times. One even went to a lawsuit for a work that I had done for a client. And later on, in this particular case, it was a couple of years later. The client had used another designer to do what was it? Oh, it was a banner ad. As a matter of fact, it was a banner ad, and I happened on it one day while I was on the web. I just happened on the banner ad. I was like, wait a second, that's my logo. And I looked at it and there was a drop shadow on it. So I contacted the designer. I contacted my client. I explained to them why this is a conflict, and I would like to issue a cease and desist because contractually, when I had submitted the work, it was in the style guide had indicated that there should be no changes to any of the work that was associated with the style guide. So by changing the by allowing the designer to add a drop shadow to the logo, were in breach of contract. So I gave them a courtesy call to let them know. Um, but their designer never took the drop shadow off, so I actually had to file a lawsuit, and I won, of course, because it's copyrighted, right? And it was expressly stated in the contract that no changes were to be made to the logo. Okay, the reason I'm telling you that is because typically you don't want to make changes to the logo. I understand the reasoning for wanting to make changes to make it more visible here in this placement. But theoretically, if you are supplied a logo from a client and you place it on the background image and it's not visible, find another background image. Don't change the logo. Okay, yeah, it took me a long time to say that, but that's what I'm getting at here. Okay, so the crop section of the background having an edited brightness, large white section. The foam may receded way more adjustments. Yes, I think it's great. The detail you've got in this seed foam here is fantastic. I mean, I could see this just going to pure white in a lot of areas, but you've really done a great job preserving detail throughout all of this area. This would be considered probably a problematic issue for this image, so I thought you did a great job adjusting it. Um, okay, let's get them the coach. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the ad. I've got the ad up here now. There's a couple of things. Placing the logo in the center of an ad is highly, highly unusual. I don't recommend it. It's not allowing, just anchoring the logo right here is really not allowing the eye to effectively move through the ad. And as a designer, we have control of where and at what point we want our viewer to look at the ad. So I think by placing the logo down in this corner, this is an exit corner. This is called an exit strategy. Typically, we start any composition in the upper right. We move across and down in the composition, exiting in this area. I think placement of the logo is great to reinforce branding, as long as that is typically the last portion of a composition the viewer will look. So we place the logo, reduce the size of the logo, and I would place it right down here. and take this headline and the subhead, "Love Your Summer, Exploring St. Thomas." That should be, I would say, "Love Your Summer," and then in a subhead say "Explore St. Thomas." We'll move that right over here. Okay, "Love Your Summer" and "Explore St. Thomas." Now, the "Exploring St. Thomas" right now is you want to reduce the file size. I'm sorry, the font size there, because we want to preserve hierarchy. Think of a newspaper. Headline is usually the largest, then the subhead, then the body copy is the smallest, right? So we want to mirror that by you could even increase "Love Your Summer" and then decrease the size of the subhead. Good job using the appropriate typefaces there. You don't want to animate those. Those stay static, and that's in the announcement. That's a requirement that's in the logo. I'm sorry, in the rubric, as well as in the announcement. So you don't want to animate anything but the text for the call to action. So the headline and subhead right over here, those stay static. Right underneath that, you can animate the call to action. So basically what we're doing is we're swapping this out. We're taking the logo, moving it here, taking the text and placing it right here. Okay. As far as the URL goes, you don't typically want to include a URL in a banner, because viewers know if they click the banner, it'll take them to the website anyways. But I would recommend definitely including located in beautiful U.S. Virgin Islands, or located on the island of St. Thomas, or something like that, just so the viewer knows that it's in the Caribbean. Okay, and those really are my only recommendations. Now, those of you who are following along, you'll note that you're probably looking at it saying, "Well, wait a second, where's the masked image from 2-1?" And there it is. It's just such a lovely masking job, you can't even hardly tell that it's not part of the original image. That's good stuff. Okay. So those are my recommendations moving forward. I would like to see those changes being made. You can resubmit right here, and if you do, include your magazine ad so we can get a good look at the cohesion between the two pieces in the advertising campaign. So as I said, I'd like to see these changes being made. If you want to go ahead and make these changes, resubmit right here. That's great. I'll be glad to provide additional comments. At the very least, I'd like to see these changes reflected in your submission for the final work, which is coming up very quickly here next week in week 7. Okay, nice work. Any questions at all, please let me know. I'll be glad to provide any. I'll be glad to provide any clarifications needed. All right, thank you very much.